Hotels were the main part of Hollywood, even from the start. Hotels were the places for parties, meetings, shootings, and even the star residences. But some of them were so mysterious, haunted or possessed, that they had become the real haunted hotels of Hollywood. Hollywood Center Motel. Away from the main thoroughfares of tourist-filled Hollywood Boulevard lies the Hollywood Center Motel, a remnant of a bygone era when mid-century optimism fueled the dreams of countless aspirants to silver screen fame. What once served as a vibrant hub for background actors and musicians climbing the rungs of the entertainment ladder now stands as a weathered sentinel, its neon signage flickering intermittently like the fading pulse of Hollywood's past. The motel's unremarkable exterior belies the extraordinary occurrences reported within its aging corridors. Night staff speak in hushed tones about the phenomenon that regular visitors have come to accept as part of the establishment's character. These manifestations have become so commonplace that they're almost considered amenities rather than anomalies. The motel's notorious reputation centers around a series of unsolved disappearances and deaths that have never received satisfactory explanation. One such incident from the 1970s involved a promising young songwriter whose blood-curdling scream alerted other guests. But when security arrived, they found only a room in complete disarray. The guest never seen again. Another involved a room discovery so disturbing that the maid who encountered it refused to ever set foot in the building again, taking the details of what she witnessed to her grave. Room 13, despite numerous attempts at renovation and even renumbering, remains the epicenter of the motel's supernatural activity. Maintenance workers report tools inexplicably failing when repairs are attempted, while guests who brave an overnight stay describe waking to the sensation of being watched by unseen eyes. The temperature in this particular room fluctuates wildly without explanation, often dropping to uncomfortable levels even during summer heat waves. The most persistent specter said to haunt the premises is described as a figure dressed in attire reminiscent of Hollywood's heyday. Witnesses claim the apparition appears most frequently during the twilight hours, wandering through the property as if searching for something forever lost. Hotel Normandy. Nestled in the vibrant cultural crossroads of Koreatown, the Hotel Normandy stands as an architectural testament to Los Angeles's multifaceted history. Its 1926 construction embodied the optimism and elegance of the Roaring Twenties, with its facade designed by famed architects Walker and Eisen, showcasing the intricate detailing and geometric patterns characteristic of the Art Deco movement. Originally envisioned as an upscale residence for the city's burgeoning professional class, the hotel's transition to a full-service hospitality venue coincided with Hollywood's meteoric rise. Normandy's period-appropriate elevators transport guests not only between floors, but seemingly between dimensions. Countless visitors have reported experiencing a disorienting sense of temporal displacement while riding in these antique conveyances, describing the unsettling sensation of momentarily glimpsing the hotel as it existed in previous decades. The most frequently reported phenomenon within the Normandy is the persistent feeling of being observed. Unlike the fleeting sensation common to many allegedly haunted locations, this experience at the Normandy is described as intense and prolonged. Guests have abruptly curtailed their stays after spending sleepless nights convinced that someone was standing in the corners of their rooms, watching with invisible eyes. Hotel staff acknowledge these reports by knowing glances rather than dismissals, having experienced similar occurrences themselves. The disembodied voices that permeate the building's atmosphere represent another layer of the Normandy's supernatural legacy. These aren't merely indistinct noises, but coherent snippets of conversation that evaporate when investigated. Long-term employees describe how these voices become more pronounced during renovations, as if physical changes to the building disturb whatever entities consider it their permanent residence. Room 207 has earned particular notoriety in the hotel's supernatural pantheon. This otherwise unremarkable accommodation has been the site of numerous guest encounters with what many believe to be the spirit of a once famous actress whose promising career ended abruptly following a scandal involving a powerful studio executive. The woman, whose identity remains speculative, reportedly took refuge in Normandy during her final days before succumbing to a combination of alcoholism and barbiturates. Visitors to room 207 describe awakening to the unmistakable scent of a distinctive perfume. This olfactory manifestation is often accompanied by dramatic temperature fluctuations and brief glimpses of a female figure dressed in period attire, her expression conveying profound melancholy. Some guests have reported awakening to find vintage clothing articles that weren't present when they retired for the evening, only to have these items vanish when their attention is diverted. The phantom piano performances represent perhaps the most hauntingly beautiful aspect of Normandy's supernatural repertoire. From the hotel's long-vacant music room comes the occasional sound of masterful piano playing. Recording equipment set up to capture these ghostly recitals invariably malfunctions, preserving only static, or, in one notable instance, what audio engineers described as the sound of weeping underscored by discordant notes. Mayfair Hotel. The Mayfair Hotel rises from downtown Los Angeles' urban landscape, like a monument to an era when travel was an occasion for elegance, rather than mere necessity. Opened in 1926 at the height of the city's architectural renaissance, the Mayfair's Italian Renaissance Revival style, with its intricate stone carvings and imposing columns, represented the aspirations of a city transforming itself from a regional hub into an international destination. During Hollywood's formative years, the Mayfair quickly established itself as the accommodation of choice for industry insiders seeking discretion and luxury away from the more conspicuous establishments favored by on-screen talent. Film financiers, directors, and powerful agents conducted business in its private dining rooms, while starlets seeking to advance their careers accepted invitations to meetings in its well-appointed suites. The hotel's reputation for discretion made it particularly valuable to those whose private affairs required shielding from the public's increasingly voyeuristic gaze. The supernatural manifestations reported at the Mayfair differ from those of many allegedly haunted locations in their remarkable consistency across decades of testimonials. The disembodied footsteps that echo through its corridors adhere to specific patterns. Security personnel have repeatedly investigated this phenomenon only to find empty hallways, their logbooks filled with notations of unexplained noises that superiors tacitly understand to leave uninvestigated. The voices that permeate the building's atmosphere represent another layer of its supernatural identity. Unlike the indistinct murmurs common to many reportedly haunted locations, witnesses describe hearing clear, articulate conversations about film productions long since completed and stars long since departed. These spectral discussions often center around scandals and tragedies that official Hollywood histories have endeavored to expunge. A particularly chilling experience reported by multiple unrelated guests involves an antique mirror located in the hotel's East Wing. Visitors passing this ornate fixture have reported catching glimpses of additional reflections beside their own. Most commonly, that of a woman in 1930s evening attire whose appearance associates her with Hollywood's golden age. Those who have encountered this phenomenon describe an overwhelming sense of sorrow emanating from the feminine figure, whose identity many believe to be that of an aspiring actress who took her own life following a devastating betrayal by a married producer who had promised to make her a star. Mayfair's infamous cold spots have defied rational explanation, despite numerous investigations by both paranormal enthusiasts and skeptical engineers. These areas of dramatic temperature reduction move throughout the building rather than remaining stationary, as would be expected with conventional drafts or HVAC irregularities. Guests report being followed by these cold regions, particularly after expressing skepticism about the hotel's haunted reputation. The Beverly Hills Hotel, known affectionately as the Pink Palace, the Beverly Hills Hotel has reigned as the crown jewel of luxury accommodations in Los Angeles since its 1912 debut. Its distinctive pink stucco exterior and tropical landscaping have made it instantly recognizable worldwide, while its legendary bungalows have provided sanctuary to generations of entertainment royalty. Behind its carefully maintained facade of elegance and discretion, however, the hotel harbors secrets and supernatural occurrences that belie its sunny California image. The hotel was established before the film industry had fully migrated westward, and its development coincided with the emergence of Beverly Hills as an exclusive enclave for the wealthy. As Hollywood's influence grew, the hotel positioned itself as the premier destination for industry elites, offering unparalleled privacy amid luxurious surroundings. This combination proved irresistible to stars seeking refuge from public scrutiny, making the hotel witness to countless career triumphs, romantic entanglements, and personal tragedies that never reached the gossip columns. Among the most persistent supernatural claims associated with the Beverly Hills Hotel is the presence of a spectral actress whose identity remains a subject of debate even among those who claim to have encountered her. Described as a blonde woman in elegant attire from the 1950s, this entity manifests most frequently in mirrors. Hotel staff referred to these occurrences obliquely as reflective anomalies, a euphemism that acknowledges the phenomena while maintaining the establishment's sophistication. Paranormal experiences extend beyond visual manifestations to include inexplicable auditory phenomena throughout the property. The sound of typewriter keys striking paper emanates from empty rooms once favored by screenwriters, while faint music characteristic of different decades plays in vacant suites. Some guests report hearing heated arguments through walls adjoining unoccupied bungalows. The hotel's famous bungalows, which have hosted everyone from Howard Hughes to Elizabeth Taylor, generate the highest concentration of unexplained incidents. Bungalow 5 in particular has developed a reputation for unexpected temperature fluctuations, lights that operate independently of switches, and the lingering scent of a particular perfume popular during the 1940s. Multiple housekeepers have resigned after experiencing what one former employee described as a woman's voice whispering in my ear while I changed the linens in an empty room. Long-term staff members acknowledge these occurrences with professional discretion, having developed an institutional approach to managing supernatural manifestations without disturbing guests or damaging the hotel's prestigious reputation. Maintenance requests related to unexplained phenomena are coded differently in the hotel's system, and new employees receive unofficial orientation regarding which occurrences merit reporting and which are considered normal for the property. The Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. The Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel stands as perhaps the most iconic establishment in a city filled with legendary accommodations. Its Spanish colonial revival architecture has presided over Hollywood Boulevard since 1927, when film industry luminaries Louis B. Mayer, Mary Pickford, and Douglas Fairbanks backed its construction. These industry pioneers envisioned creating a venue where the burgeoning entertainment business could host its celebrations and conduct its business in suitable grandeur. This vision was realized immediately when the hotel hosted the first Academy Awards ceremony in its Blossom Ballroom in May 1929, cementing its place in Hollywood history. Throughout the decades, the Roosevelt served as both backdrop and participant in countless pivotal moments in entertainment history. Film premieres, press conferences, and studio meetings conducted in its elegant spaces shaped the trajectory of American culture. The hotel's guest registers read like a condensed history of Hollywood royalty, with virtually every significant figure in the industry having passed through its doors at some point during their careers. No spirit associated with the Roosevelt has generated more fascination than that of Marilyn Monroe, whose connection to the hotel transcended her physical lifetime. Before achieving superstar status, a young Norma Jean Baker resided at the Roosevelt for 2 years, using its poolside area for one of her earliest professional photo shoots. This period represented a pivotal transition in her transformation from modeling aspirant to global icon, a metamorphosis that the hotel witnessed firsthand. Following Monroe's tragic death in 1962, reports of unusual occurrences at the Roosevelt began to accumulate. Guests staying in rooms she had frequented described electronic devices activating without human intervention, particularly when her name was mentioned in conversation. Television sets powered onto static at 3 in the morning, while water faucets operated independently of human control. These phenomena, rather than deterring visitors, paradoxically increased the hotel's allure among those seeking connection with Hollywood's most enduring myth. The Roosevelt's management, recognizing the commercial potential of these associations, eventually designated Room 213 as the Maryland Suite, furnishing it with period-appropriate decor reminiscent of her era and prominently displaying her portrait. Guests who secure reservations for this coveted accommodation frequently report sensory anomalies, unexplained cold spots despite Southern California heat, the scent of Chanel No. 5, which was Monroe's preferred fragrance, materializing without sauce. The most famous Monroe-related artifact within the Roosevelt is undoubtedly the antique mirror that once hung in her preferred suite. Discovered during renovations approximately 3 decades after her death, this large-looking glass was relocated to a prominent position in the lobby. Since its installation, countless visitors have reported glimpsing a blonde woman's reflection in its surface. Hotel employees have compiled unofficial documentation of these sightings, noting their increased frequency during significant anniversaries related to the actress's life and career. Beyond Monroe's spectral presence, the Roosevelt harbors numerous other supernatural phenomena that staff acknowledge with professional discretion. Elevators stop at unselected floors when empty. Housekeeping carts relocate without human intervention, and the sounds of crowded parties emanate from vacant ballrooms on significant dates in film history. These occurrences have become so integrated into the hotel's identity that long-term employees regard them as unremarkable features of the workplace rather than cause for concern. Chateau Marmont. Perched above the pulsing energy of Sunset Boulevard, the Chateau Marmont rises like a Gothic sentinel, an architectural anomaly inspired by a royal residence in France's Loire Valley. Since its 1929 opening, this castle-like structure has operated under an unspoken covenant with Hollywood's elite. Within these walls, conventional rules of behavior are suspended, and discretion is absolute. The chateau quickly established itself not merely as an accommodation, but as a sanctuary where celebrities could shed their carefully crafted public personas and indulge their most private impulses away from judging eyes. The hotel's reputation for harboring excess was cemented during the tumultuous decades that followed its establishment. As the studio system's rigid control over performers' public images reached its zenith, the chateau offered a pressure valve, a space where the industry's brightest stars could temporarily escape the suffocating expectations of their carefully managed personas. Behind its thick walls and heavy doors, affairs blossomed, substances flowed freely, and behavior that would have scandalized the public unfolded without consequence. This permissive atmosphere was perfectly encapsulated by legendary Columbia Pictures head Harry Cohn's oft-quoted advice to his stable of actors. If you're going to get in trouble, always do it at the Chateau Marmont. This wasn't merely a quip, but a strategic directive. Acknowledgement that the hotel's management prioritized guest privacy above all else, including moral judgments or legal considerations. This philosophy transformed the chateau into a parallel universe with its own rules and expectations, where the line between celebration and self-destruction often blurred beyond recognition. While countless scandals have unfolded within the hotel's confines, none has left a more indelible mark on its legacy than the death of John Belushi. By the early 1980s, Belushi had ascended to comedy's highest echelon through his groundbreaking work on Saturday Night Live and films like Animal House and The Blues Brothers. Yet his meteoric rise was matched by an equally dramatic spiral into substance abuse that reached its tragic conclusion in Bungalow 3. The events of March 1982 have become part of Hollywood's dark mythology. Belushi checked into the chateau surrounded by his usual entourage, including fellow performers Robert De Niro and Robin Williams, who themselves were developing reputations for wild behavior. The cocaine-fueled gatherings that ensued followed a pattern established during previous Belushi stays. But the introduction of Kathy Smith, a groupie with connections to both the music industry and drug suppliers, altered the dynamic fatally. After a night of excessive drinking at the Sunset Strip Club on the Rocks, the party relocated to Belushi's bungalow, where substances considerably more dangerous than alcohol were consumed in quantities that would prove lethal. When Belushi was discovered unresponsive on March 5th, the hotel that had protected so many celebrities' secrets became the center of a media firestorm that exposed the self-destructive underbelly of Hollywood's party culture. The subsequent investigation revealed that Belushi had died from a speedball, a combination of cocaine and heroin administered by Smith, who later served time for involuntary manslaughter. Belushi's death momentarily stripped away the chateau's carefully maintained veneer of glamorous decadence, forcing the entertainment industry to confront the potentially fatal consequences of its excesses. Yet this period of reflection proved brief, and the hotel soon reclaimed its position as Hollywood's preferred venue for behavior that would not withstand public scrutiny. Hotel del Coronado. Rising majestically from San Diego's coastline, the Hotel del Coronado stands as a breathtaking testament to Victorian architectural ambition. Its distinctive red-roofed turrets and pristine white wooden exterior have made it instantly recognizable since its 1888 unveiling, when it proudly claimed the title of largest resort hotel in the world. This wooden masterpiece represented an audacious gamble in an era when resort development was concentrated primarily on the East Coast, signaling California's emerging significance as a destination for the wealthy and prominent. The Del, as it's affectionately known, pioneered numerous innovations that modern guests take for granted. It was among the first major hotels to feature electric lighting throughout its premises. Thomas Edison himself supervised the installation, and its amenities set new standards for luxury that attracted presidents, royalty, and celebrities from its earliest days. Charlie Chaplin was particularly enamored with the establishment, becoming a frequent guest whose presence elevated the hotel's already considerable prestige. The resort's photogenic qualities made it an obvious choice for filmmakers seeking to capture California elegance. Director Billy Wilder's decision to use the Del as the primary location for Some Like It Hot in 1959 proved particularly significant, as Marilyn Monroe's presence during filming added another layer to the hotel's mystique. The juxtaposition of Monroe's luminous but troubled persona against the hotel's Victorian splendor created visual imagery that continues to define popular conceptions of mid-century Hollywood glamour. Yet, beneath the Del's pristine exterior and sun-drenched beaches lies a darker narrative centered around the mysterious fate of Kate Morgan. On Thanksgiving Day, 1892, a striking young woman arrived alone at the hotel, checking in under the pseudonym Mrs. Lottie A. Bernard and claiming Detroit as her residence. Staff noted both her beauty and apparent distress, as she seemed to be waiting for someone who never materialized. After 5 days of increasingly erratic behavior, her body was discovered on an exterior staircase leading to the beach, a gunshot wound to her head initially ruled as self-inflicted. This explanation satisfied authorities of the era, but as decades passed, alternative theories emerged challenging the suicide verdict. By 1980, investigations into the incident raised troubling inconsistencies, suggesting Morgan's death might have been murder rather than suicide. The caliber of the weapon recovered near her body allegedly differed from the bullet retrieved during autopsy, while the positioning of the wound raised questions about whether she could have physically inflicted it upon herself. Regardless of the true circumstances surrounding Morgan's death, her spirit appears to have established permanent residence at the Hotel del Coronado. Her former room, originally numbered 302 but now designated 3312 following renovations, has become the epicenter of paranormal activity within the property. Guests who stay in this accommodation report an impressive range of unexplained phenomena: televisions that cycle through channels without human intervention, radical temperature fluctuations isolated to specific areas of the room, and personal items that relocate overnight despite doors remaining locked. The manifestations associated with Morgan's presence extend beyond her former room to encompass much of the original hotel structure. Guests and staff describe encountering a melancholy female figure in period dress wandering corridors before vanishing around corners. Others report hearing a woman's soft weeping emanating from empty rooms, particularly during November, the anniversary month of Morgan's death. These occurrences have been documented with such frequency and consistency that even skeptical employees acknowledge their reality, if not their supernatural origin. The persistent nature of these phenomena eventually attracted professional paranormal investigator Christopher Chacon, whose team deployed sophisticated monitoring equipment throughout the property during an extended investigation. Their findings, over 400 distinct anomalies that defied conventional explanation, lent scientific credibility to what had previously been dismissed as mere folklore or marketing fabrication. These documented incidents included electromagnetic fluctuations corresponding with reported sightings, audio recordings of unexplained voices, and temperature variations that followed no discernible pattern related to the building's heating and cooling systems. The spectral activity at the Del isn't limited to Kate Morgan's restless spirit. Room 3502, located in a separate wing from Morgan's fateful lodging, harbors its own supernatural resident believed to be connected to the hotel's early history. According to staff accounts, this room was favored by one of the hotel's original investors for clandestine meetings with various mistresses. Though no deaths are associated with this space, guests report distinctly different phenomena than those attributed to Morgan, primarily plumbing fixtures that operate autonomously and lights that illuminate despite switches remaining in the off position. Cecil Hotel. In the heart of downtown Los Angeles stands a structure whose history reads like a catalog of urban nightmares: the Cecil Hotel. Conceived during the Roaring Twenties as a monument to the city's prosperity and opened in 1927 by hoteliers William Banks Hanner, Robert H. Shops, and Charles L. Dix, the Cecil initially represented ambitious optimism. Its designers spared no expense on the lobby, investing an unprecedented $1 million to create a space of unparalleled opulence that would announce Los Angeles's arrival as a world-class destination. This golden vision collapsed almost immediately under the weight of historical circumstance. The Great Depression arrived just 2 years after the Cecil's grand opening, transforming the economic landscape of downtown Los Angeles, and with it, the hotel's clientele and prospects. What had been envisioned as a luxury establishment for business travelers and tourists rapidly devolved into affordable lodging for those living on society's margins, transients, individuals with addiction issues, and those engaged in illicit economies. The Cecil's descent into notoriety began in the 1930s with a series of suicides that established a pattern that would persist for decades. The first widely documented tragedy involved W.K. Norton, a 46-year-old guest who took his own life in his room. This death, while tragic, represented merely the opening chapter in what would become an extensive chronicle of misfortune and malevolence connected to the property. Among the Cecil's most disturbing incidents was the 1947 case involving Dorothy Jean Purcell, a teenager staying at the hotel with her boyfriend. Unaware of her pregnancy until she suddenly gave birth in the hotel bathroom, the panicked young woman, believing the infant stillborn, made the incomprehensible decision to throw the newborn from the window. Medical examination later revealed the child had been born alive. The courts ultimately found Purcell not guilty by reason of insanity, and she spent the remainder of her life institutionalized, a fate perhaps more merciful than living with full awareness of her actions. The hotel's darkest associations emerged during the 1980s, when its affordability and management's minimal supervision attracted one of America's most notorious serial killers. Richard Ramirez, dubbed the Night Stalker by a terrified public, selected Cecil as his residence during his reign of terror across Los Angeles in 1984 and 1985. For approximately $14 nightly, Ramirez secured accommodations on the hotel's 14th floor, where he could come and go without scrutiny, often returning blood-soaked from his nocturnal assaults. Witnesses later recalled Ramirez's disturbing behavior within the hotel, including disposing of blood-stained clothing in the building's trash receptacles and wandering common areas in his underwear, yet these eccentricities generated little concern in an establishment where unusual conduct had become normalized. This indifference provided Ramirez perfect cover as he committed at least 14 murders before his capture in August 1985. He would remain incarcerated until his 2013 death from complications related to B-cell lymphoma. The Cecil's macabre magnetism for killers manifested again in 1991 when Austrian journalist Jack Unterweger checked into the hotel. Recently released from prison after serving time for murdering an 18-year-old woman, Unterweger had reinvented himself as a crime writer specializing in prostitution exposés. This literary career brought him to Los Angeles ostensibly to research an article comparing European and American sex workers. Unterweger's fascination with Ramirez extended beyond professional interest into apparent emulation. During his stay at the Cecil, he murdered at least 3 sex workers, strangling them with their own bra straps in a signature method that would later connect him to additional killings across Europe. The FBI eventually identified Unterweger as a suspect, leading to his 1992 apprehension and subsequent conviction for 9 murders. Rather than face life imprisonment, Unterweger fashioned a noose from prison shoelaces and hanged himself hours after hearing the verdict. The Cecil's connection to Hollywood's most infamous unsolved murder remains speculative, but persistently rumored. Elizabeth Short, posthumously known as the Black Dahlia, following her grotesque 1947 murder and mutilation, was allegedly seen at the hotel's bar shortly before her disappearance. While never conclusively verified, this association has further cemented the Cecil's reputation as a nexus of Hollywood's darkest energies. Another unsolved case that continues to haunt the Cecil's legacy involves Goldie Osgood, a retired telephone operator and long-term resident discovered raped, beaten, and strangled in her room. Although police initially arrested a suspect seen fleeing in blood-stained clothing, he was later released due to insufficient evidence. Osgood's killer was never identified, adding another layer to the building's accumulating mythology of unpunished crimes and restless spirits. The Cecil's operators attempted to escape its blood-soaked reputation through rebranding in the early 2000s, renovating portions of the building and renaming it Stay on Main, while converting some floors to residential units. This cosmetic transformation did little to alter the property's essential character or the energies believed to permeate its structure. This futile attempt at reinvention was dramatically underscored in February 2013 when guests began complaining about low water pressure and unusual taste in the tap water. Maintenance personnel investigating these issues made a horrifying discovery in the rooftop water tank: the decomposing body of Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian student who had vanished from the hotel weeks earlier. The circumstances surrounding Lam's death spawned countless theories ranging from murder to supernatural influence. Security footage from the hotel elevator captured her final known movements, showing Lam behaving erratically, gesturing wildly at invisible presences, appearing to hide within the elevator, and pressing multiple floor buttons before exiting in apparent distress. This unsettling video became one of the internet's most analyzed mysteries, with many viewers claiming to observe supernatural elements, including missing seconds and possible apparitions. While autopsy results officially classified Lam's death as accidental drowning, complicated by her bipolar disorder, skeptics note the significant challenges she would have faced in accessing and entering the water tank independently. The hotel's rooftop was supposedly secured, and the tanks themselves required substantial effort to open. These inconsistencies have fueled speculation that Lam's death, like so many others associated with the Cecil, involved elements beyond conventional explanation. Chelsea Hotel. Unlike Los Angeles's hospitality landmarks, which primarily served the film industry and its satellites, New York's Chelsea Hotel emerged as a creative commune disguised as a lodging establishment. Built in 1884 as one of Manhattan's first cooperative apartment buildings, the structure at 222 West 23rd Street transformed into a hotel in 1905 when financial difficulties forced a change in business model. This transition established the eclectic, bohemian character that would define the Chelsea for more than a century. The hotel's distinctive Victorian Gothic architecture, red brick facade, black wrought-iron balconies, and grand staircase created an environment that felt removed from conventional time and space. This otherworldliness attracted generations of artists seeking inspiration and community. The roster of creative luminaries who called Chelsea home reads like a cultural history of the 20th century.